Adobe Photoshop is probably the most well-known image editing software up there with Microsoft Paint. You might even have it on your taskbar. I know I do. Adobe haven't marketed themselves so well, to say the least, what with having unlimited access to anything you make to train its AI, including anything under NDA. Not only that, but a single application under the Creative Cloud suite can cost up to $21. So what are the alternatives? Well, there's GIMP, there's Krita, there's Paint.net. But today I'm going to tell you about a software you can use in your browser right now called Photopea, which has the closest workflow to Adobe Photoshop I've seen to date. One big advantage Photopea has over something like GIMP is that we don't need to download it onto our system. We can simply go to photopea.com and here we go. So when we hit the landing page here, we're met with an introduction telling us what file extensions it can take. We've got PSD, AI, PDF, SVG and CDR. With this software, these file formats are commonly associated with in brackets. You can suggest new features on their GitHub and Facebook. You can even check out their subreddit. Scrolling down is the application itself, and we've got plenty of options to create our initial project or open up an existing one. We can connect it to Dropbox, OneDrive and Google Drive. It also includes P-Drive, which is something you need an account for. Speaking of accounts, for $5 you can have up to 5 GB in the P-Drive address mentioned. You won't see the ads to the right, you get 3,000 AI credits, and twice as many steps in the history panel, which I will get into later. I don't know about you, but compared to Adobe's offering, I would have no problem donating this way. Alright, let's create a new project. We can start with a template over here, to which there's a bunch to choose from, and it's all free. From YouTube thumbnails to social media posts, this won't simply throw a JPEG onto the canvas. It will give you each individual layer so you could, for example, modify a line of text. The other option is to select New Project and either select a preset size from down here or give our project a name and size in pixels, centimeters, the background color, etc. After we click Create, we're in. So we've got our layers to the right here, positioned with channels and paths. We've got our history and swatches. If we click any of these icons down the left of these panels, they'll expand outwards. We've got information which can be used to get specific coordinates. We've got properties which will allow you to modify the size of a selected object. And then we've got the panels that allow us to mold brushes and fonts exactly how we like them. I haven't seen this panel in Adobe Photoshop, but this option allows us to see the CSS of certain objects. It doesn't work with everything, but it can be useful information if you're doing anything that involves the creation of a style sheet. The gallery just lets you insert images from a gallery somewhere. Now going back to the history tab up here, notice how every time you do something, it creates a new entry. Well, if you've ever seen the step backwards feature, this is what it's referring to. It only has a limited amount of memory, and as I showed you before, that memory is extended with a premium account. Running along the top here, it is just like Photoshop. We've got image, layer, select, and windows. I mean, I don't even know how they managed to replicate the clouds filter, given I don't think I've ever seen the source code. If we look towards the left of the screen, we'll have our main tools. And if we click each one, we'll see a horizontal bar at the top that changes based on what we've selected. With each one, we can right-click to see variations of the tool, and we can see the keyboard shortcuts associated with it. So by default, we have the Move tool selected, which can also be accessed by hitting V on the keyboard. If we've got multiple objects on the screen, we can move them around. And we have some different alignment options here. I had to open up Photoshop CS5 just to check if that equal gaps icon has always been there. Maybe they just introduced it in newer versions and I just didn't see it. We can also download specific layers from here and check the margin and padding of an object. Moving on, we have the different lasso tools used for making selections of basic shapes or outlines. For each option, we can choose whether we take away or intersect with the existing selection. We can refine the edge, which opens up a whole new dialog, or we can add feather, which basically softens the edge. The wand allows you to select options based on colour. For example, if I clicked inside this black rectangle, it would select the whole thing. But if I was to select an area or the clouds behind it, it would only select a portion of the same shade. The quick selection works in a similar way but acts like a brush. The options just let you refine how sensitive the selection is to other shades. We all know what the crop tool does. You select a portion of the image and it resizes the image to focus on that area. But we also have these two slice tools which can let you download portions of the image in bulk later on. So for example, if you had a sprite sheet, you could create a grid over that overlays the image and lets you save each one. Very useful stuff, and not something I noticed before looking into this image editor. The eyedropper tool is in everything, like crop. Going further down, we've got the tools like the healing brush tool, spot healing, stuff that can make minor cosmetic changes that simply work with the stroke of a brush. We've also got a tool here that's powered by AI. It works by using what is functionally the lasso select and circling something you want to replace. You then type in what you want instead and it'll generate something new in its place. Personally, I wouldn't use this if you're not paying for a premium account. Main reason is that some browsers may not want to view the ads you're required to watch, and if you get a full screen error telling you that Chrome doesn't have enough memory to serve the ad, you'll lose all your progress. You can think of Content Aware as like a very loose, in-house removal tool for objects. It uses the surrounding colours of whatever is selected and tries to blend it into the environment like it's a chameleon. But given the rise of generative AI, one being right there isn't much reason to use this unless you're in a pinch. I'm literally just going down these if you haven't already noticed. But the paintbrush tool is the one you'll likely be using the most, and you can right-click to change the size and sharpness. Remember one of those panels I showed you earlier to the right-hand side? Well, this right here is brush dynamics, and you can change a bunch of settings to make it behave differently. Clone tool is a useful one. It functions like the paintbrush tool, but as the name suggests, it will clone an area of your choosing. To use this, you just have to hold Alt on the keyboard and choose the area you want to copy, and then paint in the area you want it to be copied to. When you stop painting in the area, the target resets. It's harder to explain without seeing it in action, but it'll make perfect sense when you try it out yourself. The eraser tools are the arch nemesis of the paintbrush tools, with self-explanatory variations. As you can tell in my thumbnails, I like to use the gradient tool a lot. By default, you'll have linear selected, which is like what you see in my thumbnails that go from green to blue, or blue to green. But you can change the shape right here. I should have shown you this from the start really, but if you look right here, you can change the default colours. So if I set this to blue and green, and drag from left to right, it'll fill the screen with what we want. Next one down, we've got blur, sharpen and smudge. All these will apply said filter with the stroke of a paintbrush. They all have the strength setting at the top so you can change how quickly they affect the canvas. Dodge and burn can lighten or darken parts of an image, but more specifically it will emulate the look of a flashlight or a torch, depending on the strength of course. The sponge tool will desaturate the image gradually depending on where you paint. Text is what we know and love. We've got settings for it in the bar up here and this icon to the right. We've also got vertical text if that's something you need to do. As much as people use Adobe Illustrator for creating and modifying vectors, I always find myself using things like the pen tool and the various shape tools down here. As for me, I've always felt like I have the workflow down to muscle memory. So when you use the pen tool, you'll first create 2 points on the canvas like so. The second will be at the end of a line or a curve, and keeping the left mouse button held down will alter the arch you see in front of you. You'll find the direction will become more curved over time due to these anchor points that come out from either side. And by changing the direction of these manually, you can change the direction of the next point. You can do this by holding Alt on the keyboard and dragging them wherever you like. At the top corner here, you can select whether you'd like to create shapes like this, or just use them like brush strokes. If you've got a shape selected, then you can join them up in the end, like so. These lines appear blue by default, but they're not actually drawn onto the canvas yet. These are just markers so you know where they are. If we go to the Paths tab next to Layers, we'll see everything we've done with the pen tool. If you were to click off this, the path will disappear and it'll come back once we activate it once more. If you've got a shape selected, it will automatically fill it in with your primary colour, and you'll see it appear in the Layers panel too. If you were to right-click this new layer and select Blending Options, you'll have a bunch of customization options such as Drop Shadow and Stroke. There's even gradient overlay, which will let us fill it in with a gradient. Vector graphics work with points as opposed to raster graphics, which work with pixels. If you decide you want to convert it to a raster graphic so you can paint around it and whatnot, you can right click and choose rasterize. Or, if you're simply using this to save the shape for later, even though you don't really need it, you can hide the layer by clicking on a little eye to the left of the thumbnail, hold Ctrl on the keyboard, and click the thumbnail to bring up the selection of the shape. Create a new layer and fill it in as a new object. Going back to the pen tool, there are variations of this if you want to modify a shape in some way. Let's say I put down a rectangle down here, and this is a vector rectangle by the way, not a rectangle select up there. We can add a new anchor point and then use it with Ctrl on the keyboard, or we can take it away again. The selection tools beneath it will let you select multiple points in one go. If we were to select these 2 points, start to drag it and hold Shift on the keyboard, we can extend the height and width of the shape. As you can probably guess, Shift just helps you keep things in a straight line, and it works with any tool. And that's it for the tools really. This hand tool is something you can easily use with the keyboard alone by holding down the spacebar and dragging around the canvas. This icon here, beneath the primary and secondary colour, is what's known as a mask. Nothing will seemingly happen at first when you click it, but if I was to create a random squiggle here using a paintbrush, you'll see it appears in red. Click the icon again and you'll see what happens. It will select everything outside of that random squiggle. If you wanted the opposite to happen though, we can go to select at the top and then inverse. Before I leave you to play around with this software yourself, I want to show you the liquify filter. Because I'm surprised, something like this is actually here. If I open up an image here that I was using for my video on focus, I can go to filter and then liquify. So imagine you had a bucket of paint. You can move the paint around with your brush to stretch, swirl and smudge part of the image. You can make subtle tweaks, like smoothing out lines, or go wild with dramatic distortions. It's a fun and flexible way to manipulate your photo, just by clicking and dragging. You can alter the behaviour of the brush to change the impact of each smudge, and when we're done, we just click OK. To summarise here, I think Photopea is a powerful free alternative to something like GIMP, and is well worth checking out. I wish I knew about this when members of my family would ask how to get free Photoshop. But if you did appreciate what I had to say in this video, I would very much appreciate a like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely week. Bye now.